Hello out there. Are you in a caregiving role? Are you caring for a family member, either full time or part time, or are you just coming out of that? Or maybe you're considering it. Well, you're not alone. Actually, there are 53 million unpaid caregivers in the United States right now. 53 million. Can you believe that? And I'm one of them. I care for my mom. I always tell you about that. But if you're one out there, you may be feeling burdened in a lot of different ways and maybe lonely, isolated, not knowing what to do, not knowing what kind of resources are available for you. And especially if you are not a healthcare worker, there are limits to what you can do, right? So I want to talk with you today, and I want to offer some encouragement and some help for things that you can rely on, and maybe options you can consider with your family, because this is just going to increase with the graying of America, the silver tsunami. I talk about it all the time. There are going to be more people, those baby boomers, more people over age 65 than any other care group. And it's been labeled a caregiver crisis. There's a lot of talk about public policy changes. Those cost money, of course. There's a lot of reduction in spending. So what do you do? What do you do in the midst of that? And caregiving, if you are a caregiver, it can interrupt with your own family, caring for your own family, jobs, education, career plans. It's not easy. Not easy. I understand. So why are we in these circumstances? Well, I think, I mentioned back at some point that, was it Rosalind Carter? Said, you are either going to be a caregiver, or you're going to need a caregiver, or you had a caregiver. So this is something that affects all of us. So if you are a caregiver, I'm talking with you today. And of course, I'm Nancy Cogar, and this is Boomer Time. So to all of you, I say hello, and I hope you're doing well. This crisis, and I call it a crisis, and I feel comfortable with that. Okay, I'm not trying to create a problem or make people scared unnecessarily. The crisis is created by all those baby boomers that are turning over 65. 10,000 of them, 65 every day. And by 2030, all boomers, those folks that were born after World War II, are all going to be over 65. And they're going to need help. There is a healthcare crisis. The National Council on Aging says approximately 93% of adults 65 and older are going to face at least one chronic health condition. 93%. So we're all in the same boat. We need to work on coming up with livable options that both preserve the dignity and honor of your parent and preserve your well-being and your finances and your own aspirations and your family, right? So that's what I want to hit on today. And caregiving, of course, I say oftentimes that there's very little planning that's going on before something happens. 60% of you out there have no plan in place. And if you've been listening to me for a while and you still have no plan in place, I would encourage you to call me, or if you are outside of my practice area, call someone that is an estate planner and an elder law attorney. They understand these issues and get a personalized estate plan in place. So those of you that do have one, there are some things you can do to change or add to an estate plan to help with caregiving. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. But, what is caregiving? Maybe it starts with a phone call from the ER late one night mom or dad fell down, and that is a jarring thing, of course. What do you do? What can you do? How can you make decisions for them? Do you know where their health documents are? Do you know where their estate planning documents are? Probably not. But that's okay. We need to start. That needs to be part of our preparation plan. So these are the things that we need to look at. And it really comes with a real cost. So I've felt it myself as a caregiver, whether it was going long distance to care for my father in New York. I had airline costs. I had work that I missed. Just time away. That all costs money. And now, even here at home, I've got my mother, and she's got healthcare costs too. So it comes with a real cost. It can amount to, well, my own experience, well over $100,000, because I've been in this position for almost 20 years, really. And a lot of things need to be taken care of during that time period. And you're sandwiched. You're sandwiched in between your own family. I've got grandkids. I've got a husband. I've got pets. Your own family, busy family, and your own busy practice, right? Law practice that I have here. I love what I do and help people, but it's busy. And then what does your family member need? So you're juggling all those balls, and it's not easy. It is not easy. So we're going to talk about some options that are available. And most likely, I will say that probably a lot of you out there are a caregiver on your own for your family member. You're the only one that has stepped up to the plate. And I'm going to talk about that too. So I'll be right back. Stay with me. Sometimes I'm so close to this that I may assume some things, but it's important to know what a caregiver looks like. What does a caregiver do? Seems oversimplified, but hey, I've had people that say, well, I do this, I do that for my parents, and, that's just what I do. Well, you're filling a caregiving role, and it's important to look at that more closely, especially when it comes to planning and your own sustainability. So what is a caregiver? Well, if you are transporting people to doctor's appointments, you're going to the pharmacy picking up medicine, you're going shopping at the grocery, you're coordinating doctors, insurance, hospital stays, institutionalized care, medicine management, personal hygiene. That's a tough one. Bathing, dressing, toileting. Are you helping with those things? Financial management. Are you paying bills? Are you applying for benefits? Trying to? And are you really the only social connection at this point that the older adult has? That's tough. That puts a lot of pressure on you. So if you're doing all these things, then you are a caregiver. And what you do is valuable. What you do, even though you're not getting paid, has great value. And so these types of things are not covered by Medicare, which is the insurance that everybody over 65 generally has. So Medicare doesn't cover caregiving. And with 93% of people having a chronic health condition, it's impacting a lot of people. They've got to get the care from somewhere, and it's coming from family members. Medicaid, it just suffered some huge cuts under the One Big Beautiful Bill. So I've talked about that before. The fact that kind of assistance is becoming harder to get, and you have to qualify for it. Again, you need to look at your options. And if you're at home, you may own your home. A lot of people do, and that's wonderful. But you may need to look at accessibility issues so that you don't fall down and end up not having to be able to go home. I relate to all those things. Do you? Okay. So are you doing this all yourself? Guilty, right? That is not that unusual. But I want to talk about how it happens and what can you do about it once you're in that role, because it can be all consuming. It's called one willing child phenomenon. If you're willing, you step in, you start acting, you may just be put in that role and you never intended for that to be the case. You may be the only one that really cares about your parents' day-to-day quality of life. If the others won't do it, then that leaves you, right? Or at least it feels like it. You live close. Everybody's spread all over the place these days. So do you live close? That's a default too. And like I said, once it starts, it is almost impossible to start redistributing the tasks and burdens of caregiving. You know, there are people that come to me often and say, you know, I'm it. My brother, my sister, they don't care. They don't want to help. They can't help. They've got 10 kids. They don't make enough money. They just filed bankruptcy. They're sick themselves. These are all real issues, right? Real issues. But it doesn't help when you're trying to meet that caregiving need. So there are even siblings, adults that are in denial about someone's level of decline. I see that a lot too, where someone has been diagnosed with dementia, some kind of dementia, and the decline is obvious, but everyone's afraid to do something or waiting until it gets really bad to do something. You know, I'll do it when it gets really bad. That's just going to make things worse. But it happens. I see it all the time. Also, financial pressure. You know, legally, you are not responsible for your parents' health care costs, long-term care costs, legally. If you are a married spouse, then you are under something that's called the medical necessities doctrine. That means, you know, if your wife has $50,000 in healthcare costs, that's your liability too. But it is expensive. I mean, and a lot of people can't afford institutionalized care. It can be upwards of $5,000 to $7,000 a month. You know, we need to look at options for using assets strategically in this season of life. And that's part of what I do with the planning. For some people, it's just impossible. They don't have that kind of money. So the option is to either have a family member help or bring somebody in or a combination thereof. I want to talk about what options are available. And if you are in that caregiving role, there are some things that you may not have thought about that can help with that transition in that season. So I want to talk about those in just a few minutes. But the emotional, physical toll is tough too. So that's all stuff you probably already know, but it's a reality. So I think it's important to talk about that and know that traditional things that we've relied on, Medicare, Medicaid, they're not there to the extent that they were at one point. But this requires some creative planning to avoid an all-out crisis. So caregivers too lose work time. They you end up paying something. You end up paying something either for what you're doing or for the fact that there's a deficit, right? It's just a reality. But it something can be done, and I want to talk about those options. I also want to talk about some of the public policy discussions that are going on. I know we have a bad taste in our mouth about the legislature, right? But they are our leaders. They are directing what happens, as far as laws and the way we live our lives. So there were a couple of reports that I think would be, if you really want to dive into this deep, there are a couple of reports that I'm going to put online at my website, nancycogar.com. One is from the AARP and the National Caregiving Alliance. It's about 120 pages long, but steeped in facts about who's caregiving, what's happening with caregiving, unpaid caregiving in particular, and the costs associated with that. There's also some numbers specifically to Tennessee that I'll highlight for you. It's important to know what's happening around us, right? And there is one other option that I talk about. And so I've written a book, right? Boomer Time Blueprint. You need to put this in your hands. I am so excited because I had an older gentleman come in yesterday, as a matter of fact, and he said he bought the book and his wife is reading the book now and his kids bought the book. So that is exactly what I'm wanting. The family needs to examine this issue and be there to protect the honor, dignity of that older adult and determine what you absolutely critical need to do and what you might also do. So buy my book. It's on Amazon.com. You can get it as an ebook. You can get it as a paperback. Just get it. So we're talking options. If you are in a caregiving role or you've been asked to be a caregiver or you see the writing on the wall and know that you've got a parent declining and they're going to need some help and you want to do that, then there's some things you can do right now. For instance, there's something called a caregiver agreement, essentially a contract to offer those services. I do those all the time when it comes to estate planning. Monies can be paid in exchange for defined services that are provided. They can even be compliant with, future long-term care. And it also protects against siblings who may not be involved thinking you're taking mom and dad's money. I had one case where a brother lived with dad and had lived with dad for really most of his life. But he was wanting to be caregiver and dad was okay with that. So what we did was we built a caregiving agreement into the estate plan. And now brother is living in the house after dad passed away. And we've got the house in a trust, but he has the right to live there. And it's carrying on after his father's passing. And that was important to his father. He wanted to make sure that his son was taken care of and caregiving was taken care of. And there was some kind of benefit to that. Not chaos, right? It's a service for return of something. Here's another one. And it sounds harder than I say it, but speak up. Speak up. You are not a healthcare worker or a physician or a geriatric care manager. So you have limits. State those limits. Make sure they are understood. I've got some scripts in my book, Boomer Time Blueprint, and on my website that can help to start these conversations. They are so very important. So speak up. I've sat down with family members too, and we've just talked through the long-term care issue. If you need a guide, kind of almost like a mediator, can help with conflict and expectations. in needs. And that's usually part of a estate plan. Because you need to put the planning in place. And there really are 7 documents that you absolutely need. So those of you out there that think you don't need those, you do need those, and they need to be enforceable and they need to be specific. In the age of HIPAA privacy and all this fraud, financial security, you need to put these documents in place before you need the help. So you have it available to you when you do need it. I don't know why so many people don't understand that. I mean, if you are incapacitated and in a coma, obviously you can't do anything for yourself. But if you have dementia, that's the same thing. There's going to come a point where you can't do things on your own and you need help, and you need to put something in place to authorize that. Because otherwise you will find yourself in an expensive option of a conservatorship, or your needs will not be met, and then that will create another issue. So I would say that is a definite part of it. Even if you're going to do a caregiver agreement, sit down with the family. The more the family, I mean, generally, if your family's normal, more the family knows and appreciates and is part of the conversation, it helps. You know, there's those that have personality disorders or just not nice people or selfish or narcissistic. But that's not your problem either. You can't do anything about that. Just do the best you can do. So there have been some talk about policy changes that can help with the amount of caregivers out there that are giving their time. You know, it can be anywhere from 20 to 40 hours a week full time. So it makes it hard to work in addition to that. But there's people that do it all the time. One thing that has been proposed but will need the approval of the Congress is federal tax credits. So if you're a caregiver and you're caring for an adult and you're not getting paid, there may be some tax credits that you get to save you in tax liability. And, you know, that equates to value. So that's one thing that they're looking at. Caregiver exemptions, same thing. That's if you live in a house for 2 years and you're caring for a loved one, there may be some exemptions for you. Also, interestingly enough, AI. I don't know if you've seen some of this, but I want to do a show on this specifically. But I saw one last night where it was an AI bot that was a food plate that was sitting on a hospital table with the gentleman in the bed. And the food, the spoon, the robot was helping to feed the adult. It was incredible. They've got AI that allows people to walk again, be mobile. You know, if you're wheelchair bound, you can't get upstairs and things like that. It's not possible. But there are wheelchairs now that can motorize upstairs. There's AI. I want one of these. AI that clean the house, cook, that kind of stuff. So, you know, I know we're on the early side of that, but I really do think that that is going to come into play when it comes to care in the future. And then there's smart home technology. Being that we're here in Chattanooga, we've got fiber optics, which most people don't have in the country. So it also allows to have a smart home. And that can help with tracking whether someone's fallen down, whether someone needs help, you know, checking in with people. And that can give you some peace of mind as well. So those are all things. And we still have, you know, some of the things that have been in place, like FMLA. If you're working, you can take up to 12 weeks unpaid leave, and they can't get rid of you. So if you have a family member that's been through some surgery or you got a transition period, that's available to you. But of course, it's without pay. But there are a growing number of employers also that are offering paid caregiver leave. They're looking at this more holistically. So they got maternity leave, right? So caregiver leave. And you might want to check with your HR department. This is being talked about. If you have a company that offers that type of leave, I'd love to talk with you. So reach out. Or if your company has given that to you, let me know. I think these are interesting options. So then there's, respite care. That's a hard one because you think, I can't take a break. I'm too busy caring for people. But it is important to look at these issues and really recognize that your own health is in jeopardy. So it's more than a solo sport. It's a family affair. Well, I hope this has been helpful. It's helpful to me. Like I said, the biggest piece for me in being able to help is through counseling families through these issues and then planning. So there are some specific things intentional things you can do if it comes to planning. So those would be the two things that I can help with. And then you've got other people that can outfit your house. I can help you through a home inventory of dangers in your house, red flags. You may have to make some changes to your house to make it more accessible. That just makes sense. If you've been living in the house for 50 years, there may be some things that you negotiated well back then, but now not so much, right? So, all right. Well, if you are a caregiver out there, I hope that this was helpful today. It always helps to talk about it, right? I'm the only one in my family right now, besides my husband, who's wonderful, that's caring for my mother. I've got 2 other siblings, but they are not involved for various reasons. But it does make it harder. It does. It just seems like there's always something that needs to be done. Consider some of these options I've offered today, and then go to my website. I will have resources there. If you want to dig into that report, that will be there. And really, get my book, Boomer Time Blueprint. It will show you the way. It's a road that you need to have a plan and navigate. Point blank. So, okay, my friends, I will see you next time here on Boomer Time. And in the meantime, if you've got an idea for a show, or you need estate planning help, you want to talk about that, you can reach out to me at nancycogar.com. It comes right to me. So I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.